Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Made You Book. My name's Gretchen and today I'm going to be talking about the 10th book that I finished from the Booker Prize long list, and that is Study for Obedience by Sarah Bernstein. So first and foremost, couple things before we get into the book. I do not think that I can do this review without giving away some things that some people may consider spoiler territory. I apologize for that if that's something that you are concerned with. You can certainly stop this video and maybe come back once you've read it. But I will say, I don't think that when I say spoiler, I'm using that term very loosely because this book doesn't really have much of a plot. I will be honest and say nothing really happens. Everything that you need to know about the book is on this blurb here, and the book really doesn't tell you much more than that. And you might be wondering, like, well, then what's the point of the book? And in my personal opinion, which we'll get into, I have a lot to say about this book, is that it's the feeling that this book invokes that is going to be what you take away from the book. It's not the story. It's not it's not what happens. It's how this book makes you feel. So if that's something that concerns you about moving forward with the video, like I said, feel free to hop off now. But the other thing is this book is going to be probably, I know I've said this before in some of my other videos, and I actually regret it because this is going to be the book that is the most polarizing book on the long list. And you are going to be in either awe of Sarah Bernstein's ability to invoke those feelings in you and to do what she does with a book that doesn't really say much of anything, or you're gonna be like, what the hell did I just read? That was rubbish. That was a waste of time. I got absolutely nothing out of that book. It was just weird and pointless and I hated it. And that's okay. There's no redeeming this book if that is how you feel. Because if that's how you feel, it means that those emotions were not tapped into during your reading experience, in my opinion. This book, from the very first couple pages, had me on the edge of my seat. It had that tickle developing in my spine. It had my skin crawling, and I couldn't, nothing horrific happened, nothing terribly gory happened, but I was just on edge for the entire read. And that feeling propelled me through this book. And if I could suggest, if you are reading this, sit down and read it in one setting, because I feel like if you were to break this up, you're gonna lose that feeling, and you're gonna have to get back into that state of mind to enjoy the rest of the book. So it's a very short book. I read it in a couple hours, and I think that I'm really thankful that I did it that way, because I really do think I would have lost something if I put it down and tried to pick it back up a little later. So what is this book about? So this book follows an unnamed narrator, and we learn that she is moving to a remote area of a foreign country to move in with her brother. And her brother is recently divorced. His wife is moving out. His teenage sons are moving out. And he invites his sister to come and live with him. It's the motherland for them. So it's where their ancestral roots come from. And he wants his sister to basically take care of him. And when I say take care of him, I mean taking care of him like he is an infant. His sister cooks, cleans, she chops wood, she bathes him, she dresses him, I can't remember if it says that she feeds him, but I'm sure she does that too. And that's where I started to get the ick. Like, it was just something horrendous was under the surface of this entire novel. And that's where I started to just get the So once she moves in, or she gets to this place, one of the things that struck me with this book is that I feel like Sarah Bernstein purposely planted seeds throughout. And some of those didn't come to light until later on, but some of them, the second that I read them, I'm like, wow, that's weird. That is a weird thing to say at this point in the book. And as most of you probably know, if you follow me, that I like to annotate my books. So, and I'm so thankful that I did for this, because there were so many things that I read that gave me that feeling, and I made a note of them just to see if once I was done, if that meant anything. And of course, I feel like there were some red herrings in here, but I also think that she geniusly planted seeds in your head throughout this book. And I think she did a really good job with that. So kind of back to the plotless plot. Once she moves in, her brother very quickly, after a few days, announces that he has to go to a business trip, or on a business trip, and he's going to be leaving her there alone. And she is obviously having to take care of the entire house. Her brother has a dog that she has to take care of. And this is really kind of the first time that she's really had to go into town and interact with the townspeople. And she very quickly realizes that she is not welcome and that she is not liked. Not even not liked, but actually like loathed. She doesn't know why. Nobody speaks about it. Nobody says anything. But Sarah Bernstein is able to give the reader that uncomfortable, unsettling feeling of that situation where you are being judged, you are being judged as an outsider, and that person does not like you. You could feel that as the reader, and it was so creepy. It had me on the edge of my seat the whole time. Like, I kept waiting for in action. What is going to happen? What is that townsperson going to say? Why do they hate her? We never really learn. It never comes out, but the reader can speculate. And here is where this story just solidified its genius to me. And that is how you as a reader get to make up your own story with what is being told to you. I am going to kind of go into some of the things that I think were going on and some of the reasons why the townsfolk hated her so much. And I am just saying that these are the things that I put together. These are the things that this book made me consider and wonder. I have a feeling that 10 different people could read this book and have a completely different idea of what was going on in this book and what happened. I even have multiple theories. I had multiple kind of tangents that I would go down and thinking, oh, was it this? Oh, was it that? And then just when I thought I figured it out, something else would happen and I'd be like, oh no, it's this. And I was just captivated. So now we're definitely getting into spoiler territory here. So if you don't want spoilers, you can stop the video. So couple things about the book is that weird things started to happen. So she comes into town and she's almost like bringing doom and death and horrible things with her. Some of the livestock starts to die. There's just weird things that are happening. There's a dog that has a phantom pregnancy, and there's just unexplainable things. And it seems like the townspeople are blaming her for everything that's going wrong. And the way that that's presented, my first thoughts were, is she a witch? This book also baffled me because I couldn't tell where this book was supposed to be set. There were such almost medieval tones and vibes to it that this book could have easily been set in the 1500s, the 1600s. But then she's talking about her brother being on Teams meetings, and her job is she's a transcriptionist for a legal firm, and she's using her laptop. And that was just so weird. I felt like I was in limbo. Like, am I here in medieval times? Am I in the present? The other thing was, I told you about the witch. Like, was she a witch? The other thing that I started to think of, like, is she actually there? Is she a ghost or a phantom or a spirit? One specific thing that happened is when she arrived to the airport for the first time, she actually couldn't trigger the sensor for the doors to open to let her outside into the town. And she actually couldn't get out until someone else walked up and the door opened for them. So in my mind, I'm thinking, does she actually even exist? Is she a ghost? So then I kind of went down that little road. This is gonna sound absolutely insane, but there was a time where I actually thought, is she Jesus? And part of that reason was there were so many biblical references along the way. They were talking about resurrection. She was talking about, it almost sounded like she was talking about a Judas type character. It sounded like she was talking about kind of like with the doors opening and stuff. There was talk about her interacting with lambs, and there were so many biblical references that I just couldn't help but kind of go down that little theory too, to see if that went anywhere. Oh, the other thing was the phantom pregnancy. So she has a dog that's barren that cannot have babies because he was neutered. And all of a sudden this townswoman is blaming that dog for impregnating her dog that is And then I just kept on thinking, oh my gosh, it's the Immaculate Conception, but it's for dogs. And it was just, I was just so fascinated. Like my brain was just all over the place. But what I think was the most intriguing part of this book for me was trying to figure out where this book was taking place. So the main character, I cannot honestly remember if it is blatantly said that she is Jewish, but we are given enough information to determine that she is in fact Jewish. And one could divulge from that information that that is the reason that they hate her, because she is Jewish. There are anti-Semitics, and they regret and they hate the fact that she has entered into their town. Now, because this is supposed to be modern because of the laptops and the Teams meetings and all of those things, I tried to think of where this could possibly be taking place. Is this a real place that currently exists in the world today? And I just, that thought was just bugging me the entire time. And spoiler alert, we never really get the answer, but once again, it's another situation where I think that each reader is going to come up with a different theory about where they think this is taking place. And I will share what my theory is. But once again, I could be completely wrong. And if you see anything wrong with my theory, I would beg you to read the book and see if you have other theories about where you think that this had taken place, because I may have missed something. I think that there were also things that she said that I was actually torn between a couple different places. And I ultimately settled on Norway. And why I came up with Norway is a couple of reasons, and we'll talk about. So first of all, the fact that so let's just talk about the physical location. So we were told that this was a northern country. We were told that there were dense forests. We were told that there is it's a cold, faraway place. We're told that there is midnight sun. So when she was talking about the seasons, she was talking about how the days didn't end. And that immediately made me think kind of, Arctic Circle area. Now, at first, I was kind of thinking Russia, maybe another further northeastern European country. But then when I started to really think about the anti-Semitism that it felt like the townspeople were projecting, I started to think about what I know about World War II history. And I remember hearing that there was actually an attempt to build a Nazi community in Norway that was going to be like this headquarters, almost like the second Germany. And the more I started to think about that, I was like, oh my gosh, like this could be it. And I honestly forget what the name of the place is. I need to do more research, and I could be completely wrong. It could have been a different country. I could have imagined that, but I am remembering that from somewhere. And I think that there were other clues that kind of led to that area. So now in my mind, we're in Norway. And kind of from there, that's where the rest of this, came out. They didn't speak the language, but then there were other things that made me think, you know what, it couldn't be Norway, because there are things that she said that don't make sense for Norway. And then that's where I started to think, well, is this a red herring? Is it one of the things that kind of jumped out to me that made me think that it wasn't Norway was she mentioned something, and it was vague, something about them having a bad healthcare system. And for any of you that are aware, like Norway has one of the highest life expectancies. They have national health care, and I'm pretty sure that it is very good health care, if I'm not mistaken. Once again, I could be wrong about that. But there were just like little things that were always making me question what I thought to be true. And it was a ride. Like I cannot put, I know I'm just not going to be able to be articulate with this book, because there is so much to cover. There are so many layers. Just when you think you figured it out, something else happens, and there's nothing even to really figure out. And the whole time that this is happening, you still have that feeling of absolute dread, and you feel like you're gonna want to throw up at any moment. You're always on the cusp of an explosion with the townspeople. Like, what are they gonna say? Like, one of them is gonna slip and say something, and they're gonna, and that something is going to tell you exactly what they are mad at her about. That's going to tell you exactly why they hate her. And we get so close to that, but we never get there. And I just think that for Sarah Bernstein to be able to invoke that in myself as a reader, I think that that's absolutely incredible. I don't remember the last time that I had a book where very little happened, but it made me determine my own story. I have my own plot in my head of what happened and why it happened. And the other thing that I kept thinking about too is everything that I was thinking of was just like completely off the wall. But is that the point? Like, at one point in time, I actually thought, does this place actually exist? Is it, does this book actually span different times? Is this a dystopian book where the Nazi metropolis in Norway was actually finished, and the Germans won the war, and this is where we're living, now? I had so many different things, thoughts, and ideas going on, and that all happened in this teeny tiny little book. And when I say teeny tiny, not only does it have under 200 pages, but the font is huge. So this book, it packed a punch. I can totally see why there are going to be people that read it and hate it, but I'm leaning toward genius. And I know that there's going to be people that come for me and say that I have lost it, and I didn't get this at all. But I would really be curious if you, as a reader, finish this book. I've heard some people had started it and they didn't see anything happening and they just kind of gave up on it. But if you read this and you finished this, please let me know what your thoughts are. And I know I kind of already, I'll put a caption in the title of this video that it contains spoilers. So, you know, go ahead and put spoilers in the comments if you want, but maybe just put a preface at the beginning that it is a spoiler, because I want to know what everybody else was thinking, was going on, was happening. Some of the main things that I want to know are, where do you think that this took place? Why do you think that they hated her? And what time did this book actually take place? Was it in the past? Was it in the present? Was it in the future? Was it dystopian? Does this place actually exist? I am so curious to read, and now that I've kind of got all of my thoughts out, I'm really excited for me to start watching people's videos and reading reviews to see if anybody else went through this experience. And I finished this book yesterday, and I actually had to make my predictions video a couple days ago because I knew I was coming up and I wasn't going to have a chance to do it before I completed all the books. And I am so thankful that I put this on my official prediction, because I am absolutely in love with this. And I would say that I'm actually really disappointed that I also posted my personal short list, because I have to swap this out with something. I don't know what that is yet, but this has to be on my personal short list as well. Maybe, yeah, I'm really gonna have to think about that. But let me know what you think. Also, if you are not going to read it, let me know why you don't want to read it either. I am so sorry that this was scattered, that it was all over the place. But as you can see by, you know, my animation, I loved this book, and it affected me. And yeah, the shortlist is announced today, in a few hours. And I am really looking forward to see what makes it. And this booker, this booker has probably been one of the wildest rides that I have been on as far as book prizes. And I am so thankful that we've had all of these great books to read. I'm so glad that everybody has had a lot to say about them, and there have been varying opinions. And yeah, so let me know your thoughts on Study for Obedience, and I will come back. I still have 3 more review books to do, or books to review, I should say. So you'll be getting those soon, after the shortlist is announced. And until then, we will see you next time. Thanks, everyone.